All right, I had to pause you guys for a second, if you could tell. This is a photo of the Arlington House in Virginia. Lee did not think the South should succeed from the Union. Like many other people, he wanted to find a peaceful way to end the disagreement, and he swore he would never break the oath or promise he had taken to uphold the United States Constitution. Okay. As a soldier, he made an oath or promise to do what was best for the United States. At first, Lee refused to join the Confederate Army when President Jefferson Davis asked him to take command. Remember, Jefferson Davis was elected president of the Confederacy. Okay, he's the man in the image who is seated with a paper in his hand. Must be that guy. Oh no, this guy. Paper in his hand. Okay. Then, just before the Battle of Fort Sumter, President Lincoln asked Lee if he would agree to take command of the entire Union Army. Lee refused that offer as well. Why do you think he didn't want to be a general in the Confederate Army or the Union Army? What do you think? Because he's probably battling his own country. He's battling the Confederate Army, which is part of the United States, or would be battling the Union Army, which is part of the United States, and maybe he didn't agree with it. Only when his home state of Virginia decided to succeed and join the Confederacy did Lee finally make up his mind. He hated the thought of fighting against the United States, but even more, he hated the thought of fighting against his home state of Virginia. General Lee became commander of the Army of Northern Virginia, making him one of the most powerful and recognizable figures in the Confederate Army. This image shows Confederate President Jefferson Davis and his closest advisors, including General Lee in the middle. So that must be General Lee. Jefferson Davis, Robert E. Lee, or General Lee, discussing their war plan. Thanks in large part to General Lee's excellent abilities as a general, he commanded the Confederate Army to many victories and major battles on the field before Gettysburg. But still, so many men had died in those battles, and there was no end to the war in sight. There was a knock on General Lee's door in Gettysburg. It was Major Venable, Lee's trusted friend and aide or helper. "General, I have reports from your field commander," said General Venable. "Go ahead," he said, turning his attention back to the maps on the table. "General Ewell had trouble organizing his men, sir, and General Rhodes failed to attack as ordered. General Early tried, but he gave up as darkness approached." Lee tapped his knuckles on the table and stared at the maps. There had been nothing but bad news all day. After 2 days of fighting, the Union Army held the high ground. Its soldiers and cannons spread in a tight line atop a long ridge, refusing to budge no matter how fiercely the Confederates attacked. The Union Army was on higher ground than the Confederate Army, so they had better position. They could see because they were up higher. "I have made my decision," Lee said. "We will strike the heart of the Union line at Cemetery Ridge and divide their forces. The rest of our army will attack on the left and the right." In the morning, the old man rode to greet his soldiers. The men cheered and waved their hats whenever Lee rode past, and he waved and smiled confidently, doing his best to keep their spirits high. How did the soldiers feel about Lee if they cheered and waved their hats? Well, they loved him. They liked him. Later that morning, though, things did not go exactly according to Lee's plans. The Confederate forces attacked, hoping to break through the Union lines and send the enemy retreating from the field. Lee knew that if he succeeded, the South would have a chance to win the war. If he lost, it may not. What do you think is going to happen? Is the South going to win this battle? The battle went on all day, but the most important moment came when Lee ordered General Pickett to lead his men in a daring charge across a wide open field directly at the middle of the Union lines. The move, known as Pickett's Charge, was a catastrophe for the Confederates. A catastrophe is an event that causes great trouble or destruction. So Pickett's charge caused a great deal of trouble for the Confederate side. Half of Pickett's men were killed, wounded, or captured. At the end of the third day, the Union still held the high ground. Lee lost the battle and had to retreat to Virginia, abandoning hopes of invading into the deep north. The day after the battle was the 4th of July, a day when Americans normally celebrated their independence. And where did we get our independence from? Do you guys remember what country? Great Britain, right? In 1863, however, celebrations were not so cheerful. Even in the North, where word quickly spread that the Union had won a major battle at Gettysburg, a war-torn nation was exhausted from battle. In the 3 days of the battle at Gettysburg, many, many men had died, were wounded, or had been captured on both the Union and Confederate sides. This battle proved to be one of the bloodiest in all of the Civil War. With all that bloodshed, few people on either side really found a reason to celebrate. So, the side that was led by General Robert E. Lee at the Battle of Gettysburg, was that the Union or the Confederacy? If you paid attention, you'd know it was the Confederacy. The side that won the Battle of Gettysburg was the Union. The soldiers on this side, you need to tell me which side it is, Union or Confederate, affectionately called their leader the Old Man. Is that the Union or the Confederacy? The Confederacy. And this side ordered its soldiers to make a daring charge, known as Pickett's Charge, which turned out to be a catastrophe for them. Was it the Union or the Confederacy that decided to charge? It was a bad deal for them, the Confederacy. Do you think General Lee made the right choice of becoming a Confederate general? Should he have been a Union general? What do you think? All right, so we should be finishing up this guy. This is a picture of General Lee. It's kind of a parade. They had people behind him with the flag, okay? And our activity page. Make sure you send this back to me when you're done. You can draw a picture of General Lee or the Battle of Gettysburg. Draw whatever you would like in this picture, okay? And then tell me some stuff about General Lee. Tell me 3 things about General Lee in here. I'd like sentences, please. Sentences begin with capital letters, end with what? So General Lee, General Robert E. Lee. Tell me 3 things. You can write on the back if you would like. But if you tell me 3 things, that would be fantastic. So tell me a little bit about General Lee. Get this sent over to me. And thanks for listening. And next we'll do handwriting, and we'll call it a day. We'll talk to you soon. Take a little break, and we'll get back to handwriting.